Hey, what's going on? Just down to my final day on this Mustang build, the 5.1 liter stroker. It's 99 Mustang GT. I'm down to priming the engine. I'm going to do that with a homemade oil primer so that I can ensure the engine has oil in all the bearings and around all the seals and throughout the engine, on the cams, on the lash adjusters, on the rod bearings, everything. I want to make sure oil is everywhere, pressurized oil, before I ever turn the key. So what I'm going to do is use a homemade oil priming system. I've used just a Harbor Freight 20-pound media blaster, and it comes with everything except for the clear hose. And I think I bought 4 little barbed fittings for the hose so that I could hook it on and hook it onto the valve. So everything else it really came with. So I've got it hooked up to my air compressor, which I have regulated at 40 psi operating pressure. So as I'm pushing like an air nozzle, it runs at just under 40 psi, and that'll constantly feed the tank, which I will fill with 530 standard motor oil, and then I'll cap it with this cap, and I can open that valve and pressurize the tank. And then I also have control down here at the other valve on the output, as well as a valve up higher. I did that one because when I disconnect it, I don't want 10 feet of hose full of oil that's just going to run all over the place and be hard to control. So I threw an extra valve in there up closer to the car so that I can close that and leave the oil in the other part of the line until I'm ready to drain it as much as I can. So I think I'm ready to get this tank filled up. I'm going to put 5 quarts of oil in it. I'm going to run 6 quarts in this car all the time, so I'm going to put 5 quarts of oil in it, and then I'm going to put in 1 quart of the Lucas heavy duty engine oil treatment, just to help prevent the dry starting and stuff like that. So I'll put that in from above, and I'll use this for the motor oil. So let's get this thing going. Just going to use the funnel that it came with. Add my 5 quarts of oil. There was a fair amount of welding dust, slag, kind of the consistency of fine sand. There was a bunch of that all over inside the box. It was a sealed box. And there was a good amount inside this tank, I think, from manufacturing and welding it. Or it was just kicking around in the box and ended up inside the tank because they didn't ship it with a lid on. It was all in its own packaging and stuff. So I was a little concerned about that. But I think that I got it all emptied out pretty well. And I also pressurized the tank several times with air while smacking on the sides real good, and then releasing the air out the bottom and hopefully blowing most of that stuff out. But I also incorporated an inline filter just so that I can make sure nothing's going to get into the engine. I don't want to pump in a bunch of welding sand, which is just little round balls of metal, and have that get everywhere. So we're going to go with that, and just about ready to pressurize the tank. Okay, I've got this upper hose open, got this lower hose closed so that I can slowly pressurize the tank. My compressor may or may not turn on, it's topped off, but I just want to ease into this. Hopefully I get good flow through the filter here. and don't want anything to blow off and make a big mess. So I'm going to slowly open this tank, or open the air supply, pressurize the tank. So far so good, tank's holding. We've got 5 quarts of 5W30 Pennzoil in there. Now for the moment of truth, and see if we get good flow through this hose. Turn it the right way. Look at that, we got oil flowing. We're just going to pump 5 quarts. Not the result I was hoping for on the filter. Not at all. So that's amazing. Yeah, that kind of sucks. So I'm not getting flow through this filter. This filter is designed for fuel. So I'm going to have to look and see if I can find an inline oil filter. I thought I'd still get flow through it, but I guess not. Oop, there it goes. I just had to open it more, I guess. Going up. Looks pretty darn clean too. Just gonna let that go for a minute. Just waiting for my compressor to turn on because it'll scare the heck out of me. So I'm just gonna let this go for a minute. Actually, I'm gonna close it. And then I'm going to grab a flashlight and just take a look up by my oil pressure sensor connection, which is where I have this hooked up. Just make sure that I don't have any leaks. It looks nice and dry. So that's good. Okay, let's continue. I'll let it go for a minute. Hear it. Hear it in the oil pan. I'm going to stop it, and I hear it trickling into the oil pan. That's pretty awesome. I'm going to just turn the engine over by hand here a little bit. That was a little exciting. I was turning the engine over and I kept hearing this little creaking, and I had the car in gear. Luckily the brake was on. All right, I'm gonna try that again. Just turning it over a little bit. Okay, we're gonna do a little more oil. It sounds like a car does when you just shut it off and it's ticking. I'm gonna go check my compressor pressure. Alright, we're fully open, we're 40 psi. Just gonna turn the engine over while this is going. And if I notice air coming out of the line, I can always shut it off right here preemptively. Pretty cool. Oop. See the air there. I don't want to blow a bunch of air through everything. There you have it. That's pretty cool. 5 quarts of oil, 40 psi. That was about 50, 55 before I went over there and messed with the pressure. I hadn't looked at it again after this tank pressurized, and the overall pressure was a little higher on the output. So I dropped it down to 40 again, which took the tank pressure down to 40. And then I opened it all the way and just started flowing. So I got all 5 quarts in there. I mean, minus whatever's left in the line. Not very much. I'm still gonna add another quart of the Lucas heavy duty oil treatment. And then I'll open the oil cap up there before I put that in, and I'll check it. And I should see oil in there in the valve train. Something besides assembly lube. Alright, so I've been running around a little bit with my head cut off, and what I did a few minutes ago is I went up and looked upstairs in the valve train. I see what I think is some oil, but it still looks pretty dry up there, other than maybe right on the cam lobe and right around, you know, the hole in the roller follower. So I drained the oil back into the top of the tank with the funnel that came with the kit and closed it all back up, pressurized the tank again. I'm going to run it one more time, priming it with this oil, and while it's going, I'm going to go up there and see if I can see anything with my flashlight and kind of go from there. Tank's up to pressure. We'll go ahead and open the valve here and open the valve here. I don't know how long it'll take to pump all that, so I want to look a little quick. Oh yeah. We got oil pumping right out of the holes in the roller followers from the lash adjusters. So that's good. Just going to go ahead and give it some turns. That means it's all the way to the top end of the engine. It should be everywhere. All my bearings, everything. Circulating through the engine at 45 to 50 psi. As soon as I see the air, I'll know I got those 5 quarts in. I'll close this this upper valve. So far, so good. Just wait to see that air. There it comes. There we go. Excellent. I think that's a success. So we'll leave it at that. I'll add that upper cylinder oil treatment through the fill and just kind of go from there. And I think that'll get us off to a good start tomorrow when we turn the key. Thanks.